Alright, what up? Hello and welcome back. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker. In today's video, we are going through the Meterpreter room for Metasploit, which is a part of the junior PenTester pathway. And this is in TryHackMe, of course, and it's part of the Metasploit module, and it's the last video of the Metasploit module before we jump into the privilege escalation module. And I've completed these things, but I did realize that there is no video on it, so we are doing a video on Metasploit Meterpreter today. If you are studying for your junior pentester or pentest plus or ethical hacker or security analyst or any of those things, or if you're trying to do that for a living, then I do recommend that you follow and subscribe and turn on that notification bell, like the video, drop a comment, any of those things. When you subscribe and turn on that notification, you get notified the next time a video that comes out. And of course, if you're studying for any of those certifications, or if you're trying to do any of these things for your day-to-day job, then all these videos will actually be helpful and useful to you. So it would be a good idea, and then it would also be really nice to just have you as a part of the community so that we can grow together and learn hacking together. And I do respond to all the questions and comments that come in, so if you ever have any questions or comments, you can drop those and I'll respond to those in great detailed answers. So it'll be nice to have you as a part of the community, and at the same time you will get a lot of cool benefits from it. So without further ado, let us jump into the introduction of the Meterpreter room. Meterpreter is a payload that comes with Metasploit, and it can work on a bunch of different OSs and platforms. So it has different flavors, as they call it over here. But one of the key, there are several key differences or reasons why we would want to use Meterpreter instead of using MSF Venom, for example, to create a payload. So we've done actually a lot of videos where we've used MSF Venom to create payloads. And what that looks like is usually it's like this, like you create some kind of executable file. And when you create an executable file, in a lot of cases, like the IDS or IPS software or AntiVirus or any of those things, it detects that there's a new file that was created, a new executable that was created. But when you use Meterpreter, it doesn't create any kind of file. It just operates in the RAM, the random access memory. So it's harder to detect. It's not that it's undetectable, but it's just harder to detect. And it becomes a little bit more stealthy, when you use Meterpreter. And then one of the other things about it that's actually super useful is that it acts as an agent between the attack box and the victim machine, the host that you're trying to target. And you get access to all of the tools that are inside of Metasploit, or even the tools that are on your attack box in that live session. Whereas when you create some kind of executable, which is a shell or like a reverse shell or something like that, you're kind of limited to whatever is available on the victim machine that you're attacking. So when you use Meterpreter, you get both sides. You get everything that's on the victim machine, and you get everything that's on your machine, everything that's on Metasploit too. So it's pretty useful when you run it that way. It does try to avoid being detected by IPS and IDS systems. It does try to make sure that it's an encrypted traffic source, so that it as much as possible trying to be stealthy and look legitimate. And what happens is, for example, in this case, this is actually a really good example. So this is a Meterpreter session using the MS17010 vulnerability, which is the Eternal Blue vulnerability that's on Microsoft machines. And they had the shell, they created the Meterpreter session, and then they ran get PID, and the PID was 1304. So if you run PS, which lists all the processes, and you look at the 1304 process, it doesn't say that it's actually Meterpreter. It says in this case, or 1304 is right here, but this is also 1304. It says that it's spool SV exe. So it's not obvious saying, oh, hey, this is a Meterpreter session. You know what I'm saying? So it tries to be a little bit stealthy, a little bit sneaky, right? And then when we look at the task list and then just kind of try to look at everything that shows up under spool SV under this PID, you also don't see anything that would say Meterpreter DLL or Metasploit DLL or anything like that. It again tries to be super stealthy. So that's one of the key, like really big key difference between creating some kind of executable using MSF Venom and then transferring it to the victim machine, where you just avoid being detected. In a lot of cases, it does say that, hey, this is trying to show how stealthy it is, but remember, most antivirus will still detect you if you run it. So it's important to understand it's not unavoidable, it's not undetectable, it's just stealthier than if you were to create an executable and then drop it into the victim machine. So that's kind of the big thing here. But either way, we're going to look at what Meterpreter does and what all the different versions of it are, and we're going to run an exercise at the very end of this thing, a challenge where we can go through and actually use it in a live case environment so that you can see how the whole thing works and yeah, just get a good flavor of it. So let's jump into the Meterpreter Flavors. Now that we've mentioned that, let's go into Meterpreter Flavors. All right, Meterpreter Flavors, basically saying the different versions of Meterpreter. I'm actually going to run the command just so we can see what it looks like. But there's a lot of different types of payloads when it comes down to Meterpreter. So MSF Venom, I think it says list payloads, right? Yeah, so list payloads, and then we can grep for Meterpreter, and we'll get a bunch of different versions of this, and it'll show us different versions for different operating systems. So I guess while that loads, I might as well just look at this. So there's Android, Apple iOS, Java, and then a bunch of different types for Java, and then this little thing at the bottom implies that there's way more results. So Linux, I'm sure there's going to be Microsoft. There's just a lot of different versions of Meterpreter, and then even for each one. So for Apple iOS, for example, there is 6 different versions of this thing, where you have the reverse HTTP, HTTPS, and TCP, and then you have this is all for the Arch64, and then there's the ARM OS version of this, and there's the Android version of this. So there's a lot of different things. Here we go. This is the list that populated for us here, and we can see, right, Windows is already at the bottom. So there's a bunch of stuff for Windows, and there's a bunch of things that are available for, I mean, look, Windows is just going. There's a lot of stuff for Windows, mainly because Windows is one of the biggest and most famous operating systems. There's some Python Meterpreter sessions here. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of useful stuff that you can use Meterpreter for. So a lot of different flavors. And then this is the list right here for the different platforms. So obviously Android, Apple, iOS, Java, Linux, OS X, PHP, Python, and Windows. And so what we use as far as the flavor of Meterpreter will depend on what OS we're targeting, what components are available on that OS. So if, is Python there? Is it a PHP web server? Network connections that might be available. Do they allow raw TCP? Can you have an HTTPS reverse connection? Are IPv6 addresses not as closely monitored as IPv4? So there's a lot of stuff that you can use to kind of determine which version of Meterpreter you want to use. But these are the main 3 general questions that you can be asking. And so when you are in MSF console, so this is the MSF6, this is what the command line looks like when you're just in MSF console. You can use this exploit, which is the Eternal Blue exploit. We went through how to search for different types of exploits in the last video. And so in this example, they're just saying, hey, I want you to use this, because they already know that this is the path to Eternal Blue. And then when you do that, this is what the command line turns into. So it says MSF6, and then this is the exploit that loads. And then from here, you can do show payloads to show you all the different payloads. When you load Eternal Blue, it uses its default payload, which is the Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. It uses that as the default payload. The one that we used, I believe, was the generic shell bind TCP, was the one that we used in the last video to get a, it was a reverse shell that actually got us on the system, but it didn't give us a Meterpreter shell. So that's what's really important. When we were supposed to get a Meterpreter shell, and then at the end of the video, I ended up getting a Meterpreter shell. But when you get a Meterpreter shell versus a generic shell, you get all of the stuff that's available on Meterpreter, and we'll actually talk about that in the next task or the task after that. But this is just kind of to understand what the different versions of Meterpreter are that exist. So we're gonna actually look at some of the commands in here, and then we're gonna look at post-exploits, and then we'll go into the challenge itself. All right, when you have your Meterpreter session, you can type help, and it'll give you the help menu that's available depending on what version of Meterpreter you use. So if it's on Windows, it'll give you a certain menu. If it's on Linux, it'll give you another menu. And just to get an idea of what is available to you, it's always a good idea to actually run help and see what's up, right? So there are three primary categories of tools. There's going to be the built-in commands for Meterpreter, the Meterpreter tools, and then the Meterpreter scripts. When you run it, you'll see commands listed under these different categories. So the core commands, file system, networking, system, UI, webcam, audio output, elevate, password database, and timestamp. And everything that we saw here is from a Windows version of Meterpreter, which is the Windows x64, reverse TCP, so on and so forth. These are some of the core commands, right? So you can background any Meterpreter session. You can exit or get the UID or get the help menu or information about a specific module. IRB or herb, it opens up an interactive Ruby shell. Load will load one or more of the Meterpreter extensions. Migrate allows you to transfer your current Meterpreter session to another process. Run executes a Meterpreter script. Sessions shows you the sessions, or you can quickly switch to another session. These are some basic file system commands. I think these also change depending on the type of OS that you are in. So this looks like we are in a Linux command. So just from ls, I can tell that it's a Linux series of commands. This might actually just be inherent to Meterpreter itself. So because I remember being inside the Windows machine, and then I was able to run ls. So I think ls is a Meterpreter command itself, and it'll work the same way as dir would, dir, which it lists the files in the current directory. So if you don't know Windows command line, this is kind of useful, and you can use Linux commands to navigate through a Windows machine, Windows terminal. Then you have the networking commands, which is all pretty straightforward. System commands, clear event logs, clear EV, execute, get PID, UID, kill, pkill, PS reboot, shell shutdown, sysinfo, all this stuff. Then we have the other commands. This I thought was actually really interesting. So keyscan dump or keyscan start, let's say. So keyscan start, it'll start capturing keystrokes. So it turns Meterpreter into basically a key logger, so you can start seeing what the person is typing. And then stops capturing it, and then when you dump, it dumps everything that you just captured onto the machine that you're on. Idle time, screen share, screenshot, all these things are really cool. Screen share obviously does the remote view in real time. Screenshot grabs a screenshot. You can record the microphone. It's pretty crazy. Webcam chat or webcam chat, webcam list, snap, all this stuff. Really, really crazy shit. We used hash dump in the last video while we were inside of the Windows machine to dump the contents of the SAM database to basically load all of the user hashes so that we could reverse engineer some of those hashes. So, I mean, really cool commands. This isn't even all the commands. These were just kind of like a list of some of the, I guess, more important ones or some of the more useful ones, but there's a long list of commands. for Meterpreter. So let's look at some of the post-exploitation options with Meterpreter. In post-exploitation, we can, again, just run help to see what is available in our help menu. Get UID. We'll get the UID of the current user that we are logged in as. PS will list our possible, or the list of our processes, excuse me. And in this particular case, I think we're going to end up using 716 in this example, where they migrate to 716, right? So when you migrate to 716, you're going to migrate to LSASS, which is a security protocol, a security executable inside of a Windows machine. We already talked about the key scan start and stop and all that stuff, but that's basically like if you were to go into a Word executable that they were using, or Notepad that they were using, anything like that that kind of requires people to be typing, you can start doing a key scan and start capturing their keystrokes and turn Meterpreter into a keylogger, which is pretty crazy. This particular example, it's switching it to the process 716, which is LSASS, as we established. It is an important note to understand that if you're going to migrate from a system privilege down to a web server privilege, for example, you may not be able to gain that privilege back, because you would have to do privilege escalation methods to actually get back into the system. So that's kind of important to understand. Hash dump, we already talked about it. So you could literally run hash dump while you're inside the Meterpreter session, and it'll just dump the password hashes of the users that are in there, which is pretty crazy. Sometimes they say, you know, it's not mathematically possible to crack it, but there's a large set of databases that are available online, like CrackStation, where you can just go and paste a hash. And even if you don't know what type of hash it is, CrackStation kind of lets you do that. It's literally a website. You can Google CrackStation and just paste most hashes in there, and it'll be able to detect it. And if it exists in their database, they'll just spit the password right out into the screen for you very, very easily. Or you can do a dictionary attack where you use, you know, Hydra or John the Ripper or any of these tools, Cain Enable, any of these things to reverse engineer hashes that you've captured. So once you have the hash, you can try to find the passwords, or you just do a pass the hash attack, where instead of trying to reverse engineer the actual password hash to find the clear text version of the hash, you just use the hash itself and you pass it on as your credentials and then log in with the hash instead of the password. Search is useful to be able to search for any kind of command or any kind of file or directory. Shell is another one of those things that just turns your current session into a shell, a command line shell on the target system. And then you can go back into the Meterpreter by doing Control-Z. Control-Z is also the command to do a background of your current session so that you can use different exploits inside of Metasploit. So that is it for our post-exploitation commands. Now we can actually jump into some of the fun stuff using the post-exploitation challenge. So I'm going to open this up in a different window. So I actually have all of these questions in front of me, and then we'll just run everything from the current recording window that I'm on, and that'll be this thing. And from here, we can kind of have some fun with it, see what we can find here. So let us get into our post-exploitation challenge. All right, for this post-exploitation challenge, what we're gonna do is, first and foremost, we're gonna load MSF console. So MSF console, and then just press enter. Takes a few seconds, but it's pretty quick usually. We're gonna use MSF console, and then we're going to use an SMB, the server message block exploit called psexec. So it's actually under Windows, SMB psexec, and here we go, we got our session here. So what I'm going to first do, I'm just going to search for it and then see what we can find. So search, I'll do SMB psexec. And all right, here we go. We got 3 different ones. The one that we want to use specifically is exploit Windows SMB psexec. That's the one that they want us to use in this example. So we're going to use 1, and it will automatically turn that on for us. And there we go. Now it says no payloads have been configured. So if I do show options, it'll tell me the things that I have to set up in order for this thing to actually work. And so in this case, the mandatory stuff is our host, which is the IP address that we have to set up. It's already assigned a port, so we're not going to mess with that or anything. And none of the other ones are mandatory. So they did give us a username and password. So I'm going to first just run this by the current command and just use set our hosts. And then from there, we'll see if they'll ask us if we want to use the username and password or if we need to set it up. So I set up our hosts just like that, very easily. Now I'm going to do run, and it's going to run it. And it said exploit failed. The server responded with an expected access denied, which means I probably have to set up the username and password. So we're going to do show options again real quick. And right here, it's SMB user and SMB pass is what we're setting up. So set SMB user to be Alan, and then set SMB pass to password 1. Now let's run it again. Okay, so it took a couple of tries. Had to make sure that the username and password was actually correct. I think the first time I misspelled the username maybe or something like that, but I unset them by doing the unset SMB user, and then I pressed enter, and then I did the same thing with the password, and then I ran it twice. So if you can see right here, I ran it, and then it tried and it said exploit completed but no session, and I was like, okay, and I ran it again, and then it finally gave me the session. So you may have to run it a few times for this to actually work. The ranking of the exploit that we're using, this thing was ranked normal, and usually if it's like reliable and you can use it all the time, the ranking is, you know, either good or excellent or something. But this was ranked normal, which means that sometimes you may have to run it multiple times for it to actually work and for you to actually be able to get your shell. But in this case, we actually were able to get our shell. So here we go. We are officially in the system. So let me see if I can do clear. CLS maybe? Nope, neither of those work. Okay. So, I mean, hopefully you'll be able to see everything that's going on the screen here. Maybe if I kind of go a little bit lower, there we go. That should be fine. All right, so the first question in our task is, what is the computer name? So we can do sysinfo, and there it is. So computer name, right there. Acme test is the name of the computer. It says, what is the target domain? And the target domain is also right here. So target domain is Flash. So that's question number 2. Question number 3 is, what is the name of the share likely created by the user? And so in this particular case, it says we need to first background our Meterpreter session and then use another exploit for enum shares, meaning enumerate the shares. So we're going to do Control Z, and it says, do you want a background? I'm going to say yes. And then there's this, and so I could do use post windows gather enum shares, and it'll just change me to that. And then from here, I'm going to do show options, and it'll say that you need to set a session. So I'm going to do set session 1, because that should be our only session that we got. And now I can run this, and let's see, post module execution completed against Acme test. There we go. The following shares were found: sysvol, the scripts, and speedster. So it says, what is the name of the share likely created by the user? And from what I gather, I think it's this one, because this is a local sysvol script, and this is a Windows sysvol script, or share, excuse me. So this is the only thing that looks like it was created by a user, and we only have 3 of them. So this is the answer to our question. That is, what is the name of the share likely created by the user? The next question is, what is the name? What is the NTLM hash of the JChambers user? And in this case, we'll need to migrate to the LSAS. Yeah, so we need to get back into our Meterpreter session and migrate to the LSAS executable and then run hash dump. So we are going to do that. So we're going to exit this thing, and then says, what is it? You have active sessions open. To exit anyway, type exit. Here we go. Exit Y. Oh, it exited my entire thing. Gosh. Okay, all right. I gotta do this from the beginning. Not MSF Venom, MSF console. All right, I'm gonna do this all over again. I'll get the Meterpreter session, and then we'll get back to the rest of the questions. That was so freaking silly. I can't believe I did that. All right, here we go. We got our session back, and now we want to do. We're going to switch to. Okay, so we're gonna switch to LSAS, and so the way to do that is first we're gonna list the processes. And the processes are here, so we need to find LSAS, and then from LSAS we're just going to use migrate. So there we go. LSAS is 768, right? Yeah, PID is 768. So we're going to do migrate to 768 is what we're going to do. So like that, migrating from 1732 to 768, migration completed successfully. And so now I just got to do hash dump. And there we go. There's the hash for JChambers. It goes from here to here. This is his entire hash. So this is the group ID, or like the ID of the user, that whichever group they belong to. So for example, administrator belongs to 500. And these are the rest of them, so on and so forth. And so this is his group ID, but then right after the second colon, all the way up to the third colon, is going to be his password hash. And so that is the password hash. Oh no, you know what? I think that's wrong because the answer is different. So I think this is actually the password hash. That's my bad. This is the password hash. I think that's what it is. I don't know what this is for. I need to look this up to see what hash value that's for, but from the answer that I found, because I've completed this room before, and I mean, you could always just try both of them to see which one is the right one, but based on the answer that we got, I believe this is the password hash. I think, yeah, I think I remember this. I remember that there was some kind of, there was another task that I had done that I used the first hash as the password hash, and it was incorrect, and so I ended up using the second hash. So this second one, starting with 69, ending with 5C, is the correct password hash for JChambers. And so now it says, what is the clear text password of the JChambers user? And for that, we're going to end up using the, I'm going to just use CrackStation. I think it should be fairly simple. And then from there, we'll see what we can find for an actual answer. If not, we'll just use something else. So we'll copy this thing, come out, and then go to CrackStation. There it is. Paste that in here, do this, and crack it. Boom, right there. Trust no one. You see how easy that is? It's pretty crazy. Like if it has anything to do, if any of these hashes are the hashes that you're using, so LM, NTLM, which is what this is, MD2, MD4, MD5, MD5 hex, MD5 half, SHA-1, SHA-224, SHA-256. This is crazy that you can even do all the SHAs, and these are not weak SHAs. So this is SHA-512 is a pretty strong encryption. But if it's a basic password like trust no one, then for sure you're going to end up finding it. So there you go. That's the password for his hash. So we got that. And now we can look at the next question, which is where is the secrets.txt file located? And we need to find the secrets.txt. So it would be search, which is the command. And we're looking for a file. So you would do F. If you're looking for a directory, you would do D. but we're looking for a file, which is F. And then we're going to do secrets.txt. Let's see if that does anything. All right, here we go. We got it. So this is the full path. They want the full path of this file. So you need to take that entire thing from the txt right here all the way to the C is the entire path. So program files 86, Windows multimedia. Yeah, that is the answer. So there it is. So you could do search F secrets txt. There's also the other way that if you didn't know the name of the file and if you knew you were looking for something, you would just do search F and then do an asterisk and then do .txt like that. But that will bring up obviously a bunch of files that have a txt extension. So in this case, we kind of knew what we were looking for, so it makes it a little bit easier. And yeah, so that's that question. So the next question is, where is the real secret.txt file located, and full path of that file. So we're going to do that. So real secret.txt, and let's see how long that takes. Okay, that one was much quicker actually. So this is the path for that: inet pub www root real secret.txt. And then it says, what is the real secret? So all we got to do is just cat, which reads the file for us. So inet pub. Okay, so it says it can't find the file, which is weird because I'm pretty sure I spelled that correctly. Oh, interesting. So it had to be inside quotes. That's actually kind of odd. But yeah, I just used cat command and I put the actual path inside of the quotations, and that seemed to work perfectly fine, and that is the actual answer. So it's right here. This is the answer right here. The Flash is the fastest man alive. And I realized right now that I also needed to do the same thing for the first txt file, which is the so let's find that one more time, which was search F secrets.txt. All right, so here's our path to this thing. So now I can do cat, cat, there we go. And then just copy this whole thing. And then we are just gonna paste it in here and do a close parentheses, enter, and there you go. So that's the Twitter password. And that's the question that I skipped over, which is what is the Twitter password revealed in that file. And this whole thing, I think it includes it does include the exclamation at the end. So KDS yada 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 exclamation at the end is the answer to that question, and that's it. So if we do a quick review, we got the computer name by running sysinfo. Once we were inside the Meterpreter shell, we got the target domain by the same information. So these two questions got that same thing from sysinfo. The name of the share we got by backgrounding our session and then using enum shares. So where is that? Right here. So we backgrounded the session first using Control-Z, and then we used this thing as an exploit. And then we set the session parameter to 1 because there was literally only one session. And I'll show you that too, because I kind of skipped that part. And I think it's important for you to see that. So I'm inside the Meterpreter session now, and I just do Control-Z real quick. And now it says, do you want to background it? And it says background session 1 right there. So it's already telling us that it's session 1. So I will say, yes, I do want to background session 1. And then I can just do sessions, I think. And yeah, there you go. So you just type in sessions, and it gives you all of the sessions that you have available. And then when you're using something that requires for you to set a session, you just do, set session and then the number of the session in this particular case. If you want to go back into the session, which is what I should have done instead of doing exit, I should have just typed back, which is this, and it takes you back to your regular command line in MSF console. And then what you can do in this case is you can do sessions I, and then the number 1, and then it goes back into that original Meterpreter session that you were in. So that's how you go in and out of sessions. And so that's how we did that. So we backgrounded the session, we ran the enum exploit, and it showed us the name of the share, then the NTLM hash of J chambers, right? So once we got back into our Meterpreter session, we switched to the LSAS process by doing the migrate command. And then once we switched to the LSAS process, we were able to just do hash dump and it put everything onto the screen. The clear text password of J chambers we found using CrackStation, which is a really cool tool, like super useful. The secrets TXT, we just did search F secrets, and this is they give you that as a hint as well. But it's very easy. Search F for file, and then just the name of the file. And then once you have that, you got to print it onto the screen, and you use cat. Just make sure that you put this entire thing inside of quotations. For this one, it's kind of important because there's a space between these phrases right here, so you have to put this one inside of quotations. But this one, you don't need to necessarily do it, but you know, and it wasn't working, so I had to put it inside quotations anyways. And since I forgot to read this question, and I jumped from this question to this question, I forgot that I didn't, you know, I had to read this one. So I never even registered the thought of, you know what, maybe I should put this in quotes, right? So you put anything, I guess, in this case, you have to put anything that you're trying to cat inside of quotes. And so we catted this one, we got that, this is the password, we catted this one, we got that, and this is the text that is inside it. And just like that, we finished our Meterpreter room for Metasploit. So this is a cool room. I like Metasploit. Honestly, it's one of my favorite tools for penetration testing because there's so much stuff that comes with it. And if you get good at navigating around Metasploit, then there's just a lot of things. There's so many things that you can do by using Metasploit and Meterpreter, and it's super, super useful. Very, very useful. So I highly recommend that you get familiar with Metasploit, Meterpreter, MSF Console, MSF Venom, all that good stuff. And that is it for this room. All right, so if you are studying for your junior pentester or pentest plus or ethical hacker or security analyst, any of those things, I would recommend that you follow this channel because this is a pretty badass channel and it's growing really quickly. Honestly, I love the fact that we're getting as much support as we are from the community, and people are dropping comments and they're subscribing and all this stuff, and it's very, very humbling experience, and I think you'll get a lot of value out of it. I add you know, I do at least one post a day, or I try very much to do at least one post a day, and I answer all the questions that come in the comment section, and I will, you know, in the upcoming weeks, I'm gonna start doing some videos around the questions that came in the comments to address some of the more detailed questions that are coming in, so that people get videos to their questions instead of just long responses in the comment section. And I'm doing a lot of these things that I've already done before because of the fact that there are some questions coming in that are relating to certain rooms and certain modules that I have previously done, but there was no video for. So if you can follow, it would be awesome, and I highly, highly recommend it. And that is it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, your favorite network and system attacker. And this was the Metasploit module at Junior Pentester with TryHackMe, and I'll see you in the next video.